This video contains gratuitous use of profanity and uncomfortable pauses to compensate for lack of professionalism and original thought. Viewer discretion advised.
Coming to you live from the top secret location of Pornhub, we bring you the Nerdy Manroom Show with your host, Hassel and Monster. Monster, good to see you, brother.
Where did you decide to come up with that one from?
I didn't have anything, and it was like, you know what? Top of my head.
Okay.
You don't want to know what goes on in this mind.
No, we'll save that for another time. That might be a long dissertation. It has been a little bit since we've been able to record. I've been on the road a little bit, but we're here today. We're going to take a look back at trading cards, if I'm not mistaken. That's kind of what we decided we were going to. We were going to have an interview, and we had to push that one off just due to work constraints for both of us this week. So that will be the next show. But for today, we're going to touch you to the world of trading cards, and I will tell you that I have some opinions, but I don't have a ton of research just because I haven't had time to do anything being on the road. But we'll see what we can make of it. But before that, why don't we get straight into Geek Week, man? I'll let you go first to see what's been going on in your world.
Well, first of all, the old dogs pulled one out yesterday. And when I say pulled one out, they had to pull it out because we looked like shit in the first half and had me talking pretty ugly yesterday. It's a good thing my wife kept me busy with painting because I could only check in on the game occasionally. And, yeah, it was kind of ugly. We did have the hope of Alabama falling to a bullshit school, but they pulled it out at the end, so here's what it is. So there was that there. Caught up on my wrestling. Not a whole lot going on there. Did you watch SmackDown?
I did not watch all of it. I haven't. So I only have the Hulu, right? So I don't get to see it live. Everything for me is 24 hours later. And some stuff it says 24 hours, but it just means the next day they're going to drop it. So like Raw, USA Network drops Raw like mid-morning, so if I'm off on a Tuesday, I could actually watch that on like a 9 or 10 o'clock time frame. SmackDown is literally 24 hours later, so I couldn't have watched it until last night. And I will be honest with you, I was already engrossed in a couple other things last night that I was watching, so I did not stop and watch it. I did on YouTube go back and watch the opening segment though.
Well, literally, if you blinked, you missed The Rock. Because early in the day, I had seen where The Rock was supposed to make an appearance on there or whatnot. And I was like, oh shit, I actually watch this. Well, somehow or another, I've dozed off in the chair probably about, I don't know, 6:30 maybe. It's been a pretty brutal week. And I went back up, it was 8:30. I was like, oh shit, SmackDown's on. So I probably didn't miss much other than, a Jey Uso or a Jimmy Uso segment, because that's how they open the show usually. So I clicked it on, and, they're already playing the replays a little bit. I'm like, whoa, what the hell? And he only showed up again in a hallway segment with John Cena. And it was like, which I will say was a pretty cool segment because, you had him and McAfee, The Rock and McAfee's talking, and Cena just walks up and he looks over at him and he's like, oh, can you see him? He's like, yeah, I see him. Yeah, but then, they embrace and whatnot. But it was kind of a funny, like, oh, you can see him? But later, that was it. You spend the rest of the show waiting, like, does he show up for some bloodline shit? Because, at the end of it, who was it? Solo's out. Yeah, Solo and Jimmy's out there fucking Cena up at the end. And, you're thinking The Rock's going to make the save, possibly. No. AJ Styles, which don't get me wrong, I'm happy to see AJ Styles back in a prominent role in WWE because they've squandered this man the last 2 years.
And I guess he had a segment earlier in the night that him and Jimmy are going with at each other or something, maybe, or him and Solo number two.
They've been kind of feuding the last 2 weeks, and he even told the OC to kick rocks if they wasn't going to be serious. And he reminded them all that he was the face that run the place, and that was the house AJ Styles. And I said, oh shit, maybe we're going to get that version of AJ back, which was pretty badass for about a good solid year there.
Yeah.
And so if we get that babyface badass AJ back for a little while, I thought they got something there. They needed on SmackDown because SmackDown without Roman And just even with just Jay going to Raw, you can tell a major difference on SmackDown already.
Yeah, well, and I get a couple of different reasons for The Rock to have been there. Like one of them being, hey, the writer and the actor strike still going on. He ain't got nothing to do.
Same reason Cena's there.
Yeah, he could come over there and make a few bucks, or come over there and make some appearances. But at the same time, Fox has still rejected the last WWE offer to keep SmackDown on there, or what they wanted.
Dude, did you see what they wanted a year?
I didn't get to see that. I saw the news of it, and I got to glance briefly over it, but I didn't get to read it fully. But
$300 million.
Yeah, and Fox rejected the offer, and they're like, well, I guess if we bring The Rock on here and John Cena on here, then you've got a reason to pay this because you'll get their money back.
You got your star power, so to speak.
Now, I will say I watched the opening segment, which was The Rock and Pat McAfee in the ring with Austin Theory, and it was about a 15-minute segment. So that one, if you called that was actually pretty good. And I'll tell you this, he still got a huge pop out of the crowd. He got the entire crowd to chant, one half to the side saying "you are," the other half saying "an asshole" to Austin Theory, and that could have gone on for a long time because he did it and it just kept going. And then he stopped them all and he said, "Now we're going to give the other side of the audience a chance to say that you're an asshole." So this side say "you are," this side say "an asshole," and like trying to watch it on YouTube after the fact is terrible because it bleeps so much out that you missed half of what he was trying to say because they couldn't come back in quick enough. But he laid Austin Theory out, gave people's elbow. Pat McAfee did the same. I did see though that The Rock recorded on Pat McAfee's show after that, and they talked about would he ever be back and what the plans were and why he didn't come for WrestleMania 39 or whatever to face Roman, because that was the big thing everybody kept saying was going to happen. And he said that they were actually trying to pencil that deal in, and every time they talked about it, they would get to a certain point and be like, "Oh, that doesn't work for the story where we are right now." So like, okay, let's start over. And he said finally they got to a point where they said, "Okay, let's just put the pencils down and say it's not going to happen this year." But then he made a comment and said, "But next year WrestleMania is here." He said, "And I may not have anything going on at that time, so I am open to returning for that."
How bad do you got to feel for Cody if that happens?
Yeah.
It was Cody's time to shine this coming WrestleMania. I mean, it's pretty well unwritten rule. Cody was going to get the rub at Mania 40. So, wow, how bad do you got to feel for him at this point? Now The Rock says, "You know what? I'm going to dusty old Brombles off and show up for one night and fuck you over."
I mean, it probably would not happen if they get over this strike, but to be perfectly honest, they're saying this might be another 4 to 6 months with this strike because the last offer that they took back to the table a week or two ago, at least from the writers' portion, was, "No, we're not doing this. We don't agree to it." So they said, "Okay, let's go back out, come back in." They said they're getting closer on that one than they are the actor one, and the actor one really hasn't even been going on that long. So you could probably see another 6 months of this stuff.
Wow, I seen something where something was teasing being written by AI just to see what they had.
And that, to be perfectly honest, is one of the big things that's holding up the writer one is the use of AI. And they're like, "No, we can't. We won't support any use of any AI in any of this because it could replace us."
Yeah.
At least from what I've read. Again, I haven't delved very much into it, but I have seen some of that. And so you're looking at another 4 or 6 months of Cena and Rock being free to be there. So does that no other show?
If they're there on a regular basis, I got no problem with it. Other than the fact that I do feel bad for Cody because I did read something today where basically it was mapped out. It's starting to map out now. The TKO is, the new company's taking over. It's looking like Rock Roman at this Mania, like Cody gets fucked over in the Rumble. He faces whoever fucks him over, but then he has a whole nother year before he gets Roman. That way, Roman can break Hogan's record next September. And I was like, I think by that point we missed the boat. If he has to wait 2 years, honestly, a year is really, really pushing it, even with the occasional teases that you get here and there. I mean, we could get away with that a little bit back in the, say, the 80s, when you only have 4 pay-per-views a year. You could kind of get away with, if you missed a boat here, he gets his revenge 8 months later. You could kind of get away with that and keep guys away from one another. Now it's a little harder. You got 2 weekly programs.
Attention span of the average viewer is not the same as it was back then.
We're a TikTok generation now. I mean, I'm 43, and even I found to where I have my attention span has really decreased in the last few years.
Well, one of the things that we always use in some of the stuff that I facilitate. We talk about the average attention span and being a facilitator and being in front of people and moving around, because if you go back and you watch TV from the 50s and 60s, where, Leave It to Beaver or The Honeymooners, whatever, the entire thing is shot from one camera facing the exact same spot, and the people move around and talk, but the camera never moves. So everybody kind of just spoke their lines where they were, and you saw it from that same angle. So now I think the camera moved every so many minutes back then. Now the average camera angle is only 7 seconds long on average before it jumps to a different angle.
How crazy was that when we first, the first big wave of HD TVs come out? And that's around the time they changed that to doing what you're talking about there.
Yeah.
How crazy was it? It was just this shit don't look right. What's wrong with my fucking TV?
Yeah. Or it would freeze up in the middle of a movie.
Yeah, it took so long to adjust to that. Now it's just commonplace. But yeah, it was crazy.
But since you're on wrestling, before you finish up your Geek Week, I do have to ask you, we talked last time about the record that they said they set for the Wembley Stadium and how many ticket sales they had and stuff. And, Tony Khan talking about the biggest show ever in wrestling. So have you seen the new statistics that have dropped this week where they actually reported the turnstile attendance of how many people clocked in the building?
Oh, no, I haven't seen that. I've seen some pictures of the current arenas that they've been running.
Oh, well, that's bad. But
they're brutal.
The Wembley Stadium, it depends on how you're going to say this was the biggest wrestling program ever. Because if you're saying ticket sales, yes, they did sell the most tickets at 81,000, because the recorded sales for WrestleMania, when they went back and actually studied it, was like 80,600. So just under, where they hit for ticket sales. People in the building, though, WWE blew them out of the water on that, because the actual attendance in Wembley Stadium was only 72,000.
Oh, only 72,000?
Because they keep statistics of that for their, I guess, and they do it everywhere, but for fire marshal reasons, all that kind of stuff. They keep the actual attendance taken into the building, and the turnstile and all was only actually 72,000 coming into the building. So
that's still a ton of people, but I could very well see Tony Khan buying that up 8,000 or 9,000 tickets to make it seem a sellout, for the talent.
It is that. Well, there's a couple of things that go into that. So you could say, okay, does that still constitute as the biggest wrestling event ever? Because the actual attendance recorded in WrestleMania, what was it, 32 or whatever, where they said they had 101,000. It was actually really truthfully around the 81,000 mark, because they had 80,000 tickets actually sold. X number of people come in from free tickets or giveaway tickets, or where they bring in
they paper the event.
Yeah, where they bring in the kids who come in. But so the actual attendance there was higher than Tony's, no matter what. But the actual sales was higher for Tony's event. The other thing that affected some of what happened in Wembley, there was a strike for the railway there going on at the time. So some of the people who were traveling from out of town to come watch it actually couldn't get there unless they drove. And some of those areas they don't really drive from. They take the train and stuff everywhere. So that actually did hinder some of the attendance from some of the tickets. So people were just out of luck because they went on a strike.
I kind of look at it like this, though. He could have had 200,000 people there for that one show. It doesn't matter if when you come back stateside, you can't fill up a 15,000 people arena.
Well, it doesn't matter when the only thing anybody's talking about is the fallout.
Yeah, literally, the event was overshadowed by the Punk drama once again. At least the Elite wasn't part of it this time, unless they were the disciplinary council, quite possibly, since they're EVPs. I'm not sure, but it was the event was overshadowed, no matter how great it was. They put on a good TV product. I enjoy AEW, I really do, but it's in trouble. It's in big trouble, because the events, when you see the pictures the fans take, no matter how clever they are with the cameras on TV, there's like 5,000 people in most of these arenas. So it's like an Albany show almost.
Have you seen the ratings too for Collision?
Oh, it's plummeted. It dropped by 30-something%.
Yeah, so it started it started close to the same area that your Dynamite is, and Dynamite still has not grown. It's still that 800 to 900,000 range.
Consistently there.
So, and Rampage has always been very low no matter what. But Collision has actually been lower than Rampage for the last 2 weeks. After they fired Punk and booed Tony Khan out of the building, which Punk should have kept that one afloat somewhat higher, but it's dropped into the true 300,000-400,000 range. Now some of
In
that's going to be
fairness,
college football.
it was starting to drop a little bit, even with Punk
Yeah.
on there. Last few to have Punk there, it had dwindled, but I think it was still around 600,000 people watching.
And it would have dropped some more
Somewhere.
anyway because of college
Yeah.
football.
Oh yeah.
But it's just not maintaining at all. And they're like that show with where they fired Punk at the beginning actually dropped 30% throughout the entire episode.
Well, so he's what people were tuning in
quickly.
for. When we tuned in that Wednesday because they hadn't announced what they were going to do, it's like, so does he show? Do they do something with him still? How do they handle this? Then you don't get him there, and you're like, okay, he'll show on his show. Kind of like SmackDown. That'd be like firing The Rock from SmackDown in the opening segment and meaning it. Not being a Vince McMahon, you're fired. Being the other con, you're fired. But yeah, it's they're in trouble. They don't really do some things. I think the taping doesn't help when they tape Rampage. That no one tunes into Rampage anymore because it's taped and it's a jobber show. I mean, if you really look at it, it's a lot like what was the old Saturday morning or our Sunday morning show that WCW had, Main Event or whatever.
Yeah, something like that.
Our Sunday morning WCW, whatever the hell it was. It was some terrible show, but prime time. I don't remember. Anyways, I remember they had a Sunday morning show and it was always just squash matches. Then you had Sunday Night Heat for WWE, things of this nature. It's becoming that very quickly. So nobody watches Friday. And Saturday's hit and miss on whether it's live or not.
Well, have you seen the people on, not even the picture of the stadium, but the people on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all that, complaining about any social media platform, I guess, but complaining about feeling like they're held hostage when they get there because they're like, oh, we have all these shows. We're going to record 3 shows in a row. And they're like, I came here for one thing. I want to leave. And they're like, I'm not sticking around for this.
The old days of taping mini, wrestling program one after another in the old WCW, NWA style, that's done. Nobody wants that. I mean, I thought it's got to be brutal to sit there through a WrestleMania anymore, honestly. 5 hours?
Yeah, I couldn't do it.
I think the longest one I sat through was a little over 4, maybe. And that was when we was in Atlanta. And it was, I'll be honest, that by the end of it, I was like ready to fucking G-Haul. Like,
and it's very interesting, too, because, they talk about how things were. And again, I think they did a great job at Wembley, but you talk about the fan interaction and everything they show you always is going to be how good it is. But then you go and you see other people and they're talking about some of the matches, like especially like the Moxley's match and stuff, or what Anarchy in the Arena, whatever it was called, and all the stuff they're doing. There's actually clips out there now where people were getting up with their children who were there for it and going out of the arena during that match just because of how unsettling, I guess, for a small kid to be there and this is their first wrestling event, and you see people stabbing each other with a fork or whatever, or pizza cut or whatever they're doing this week. People are just getting up and walking out and leaving during that stuff. Moxley
is the modern day Abdullah the Butcher. He's just some idiot stabbing himself in the forehead with shit every match. It's bad. I've never really been a Mox fan. I don't know. I thought he was great for AEW when they snatched him up because it was like, okay, they needed this big name.
They need a name.
He was a big jump. He was the equivalent of kind of like when Kurt Angle jumped to Impact, and I'm not putting him nowhere near Kurt Angle's level, just star power wise. It was a big holy shit. He just left them for this, so it made him seem viable. Other than a washed up Chris Jericho and a few other guys that just hadn't really been given a shot somewhere. So he was big for them, but he's just become Abby. Like, where is his fucking House of Soul food and Chinese food, unlike Rob, who has no Chinese food?
Yeah, I've seen people leaving during those matches and stuff from some of the clips I've seen. We talk about people jumping back and forth and how that was a big deal, WCW, WWE, but you don't really see it now. Like, you might see somebody in WWE who doesn't make it and they go to AEW, but now people are starting to leave AEW. Like they said that I guess Jade Cargill, whatever her last match was the other night, that's her last match.
She's going straight to the main roster. And Ricky Starks is not far behind her, but that's what they need to respect with Cody over there. Some of these people, they were with AEW because they had ties to Cody,
or they had nowhere else to go because WWE wasn't looking at them.
This is true. Like, Jade's only got like 60 matches in total. I mean, she is the modern day Goldberg, and don't get me wrong, she's got an amazing look. I'm actually a Cargill fan. I like her myself. But I mean, she's your modern day female Goldberg. She's, but I'll still say I think she's safer than Nia Jax, who somehow found her way back this week.
She came back only because of who she's related to. Let's be honest.
I'm gonna be honest. I've seen pictures online, and before anyone thinks I'm shaming here, because I am not. There was pictures surfacing online where she had just lost tons and tons of weight. I was like, holy shit, good for you, girl. But then when she showed up Monday, I didn't see these tons of weight she had lost. I couldn't tell she had lost a lot, or maybe it's her attire, this suit she wears.
I think it's what she wears, because she doesn't look the same when she wears other stuff and does other modeling pics and stuff. Because I've seen some other ones over in it, but it's not even that for her. For me, it's her lack of skill. Like, she's only there because they want a giant type woman who could throw the rest of them around. Like Rhea Ripley and Raquel Rodriguez are both fairly muscular, tall women. But now they've got this big person that they can't really handle, and she could throw them around and do stuff, but she's so uncoordinated with her stuff when she does it. It looks like she actually really and truthfully hurts people, and she does. If you go back and watch several things she's done before, she hurts a lot of people.
Her in there, like,
and she hurts her own hole.
Yeah, Rhea's their money right now. She is a bread and butter. There's no fucking way I'd have her in there with Rhea. It's almost like those fucking tag titles they got for the women's division. It's cursed. Everyone who gets them gets fucking hurt. And I don't know if it's because the ladies, they're trying to. I will say, I will give AEW credit for this. Their women's division is a lot more safe and stellar than what WWE has, and not because of the star power, because I like the star power with WWE.
Dude, I don't know if you just say that though. Think about all the stuff.
They're not getting hurt. They're not getting hurt left and right over there, though.
Dude, Jamie Statlander's been out several times. Several of the others have, from just taking bumps that they shouldn't.
I don't know. I think all in all, there's still probably a little more. Look at that little. What's the little blonde-headed chick? That's the Alexa Bliss knockoff. The Great Value Alexa Bliss. Oh
Lord, they've got a bunch of them.
Yeah, she's the one. She was one that was just teaming with Raquel Rodriguez.
Oh, Liv Morgan.
Liv Morgan. This little girl gets hurt twice a year, maybe 3 times, like almost quarterly. Every time she's in a big match, she's boom, boom, boom. I think even Becky fucked up damn Trish in the cage match. You see her face afterwards? Yeah. She had a hell of a bruise. I mean,
don't get me wrong. I don't think either one of them is necessarily doing it properly, but I would say that, and maybe AEWs are a little bit safer, but the skill level is not there either. Because I've watched them and I don't watch the product all the time, but I've watched random ones. Like, they'll do a dive out of the ring, completely overshoot the person they're going for, and then land on, like, looks like their neck and their head, and it's like, well, you got up, so good for you, but
their
don't do that again.
Are off. Like, all their table spots are off. Like, even with their veterans, it's like, ooh, why did you do that?
Which one was it that took the table and they caught the edge of the table, like where it's supposed to, the black strip right there?
He fucked his mouth up a few weeks ago with doing that.
One of the women did that though on the back of her head not too long ago.
Anna J.
Yeah, I was trying to think of her name. She's gotten hurt a few times too.
Yes. Her and the bunny both. I will give you that. So I retract my statement to it.
It's just the WWE presents their women's division a little bit better to me sometimes.
They're not as blood and guts, I guess, maybe.
Yeah, but I think they're looking for that big star who can be they can walk in the ring in the middle of the Royal Rumble and nobody can move them, throw them around. They're looking for their big show, basically. And Nia Jax is not that, because she doesn't do the moves well and she hurts people.
Yeah, she's very unsafe. She would not be in my ring. I'd probably pay Tony Khan to take her, because then you finish tanking his divisions. So
while we're on this, I'm going to jump ahead and share one of my Geek Week things we did, and then we'll come back to yours. But since we're on the subject, I've been watching this show Wrestlers on Netflix, which is about Ohio Valley Wrestling. It's a documentary on it. I think it might just be a limited series. There's only 7 episodes. They're about 45 minutes to an hour. I've watched all of them since I've been home for the last 2 days. From not traveling for work, I should say. So,
well, was that the one that Barry James Storm said he couldn't draw 5,000 people?
No, they actually talked him up when he was there.
Oh, okay.
He came on there and won their title. He came on there and won their title from them, from the guy that they had, who was an NXT guy who unfortunately got let go from NXT, never really made it to the when he was very big in Indian wrestler, and he came over. They signed him. He came over and he did okay in NXT, but he just never caught on the way they wanted him to, so they released him. So he went to Ohio Valley Wrestling, trying to build himself back up, trying to get back to that. But there's a lot of talk in that documentary, and they talked about some of the characters there. Some of them were great. Some of them were really good in the ring. Some are just generic, whatever. The backstory of what's going on there and the documentary part of it, like them trying to keep it afloat and losing money, and the guy who owns it now, who's a radio host or whatever, there's stuff in that show that's over dramatized very heavily, and I don't know which part is which. Some of it, because they just bleeds into each other, what's real and what's dramatic. But like this one wrestler guy who's there, who's a complete and utter idiot, at least to me. He talks about how the wrestling is, and every time they're talking to him, he's sitting in this old beat up 1990s car that's got dents all over it. The paint's gone off of it. It's like primer gray. He's hanging out the window and one arm out the window talking to him and stuff. Every time they're interviewing him for the behind the scenes stuff, that's how he's sitting. But he's such an idiot because he dates one of the girls who's in the female division there, and she's actually pretty talented. Now she's immature because she's very young, and she is country bumpkin as you can come across probably in Kentucky.
Oh,
but
she speaks cornbread then.
Yeah, but she's very good in the ring, and she seems to have a good character and a good idea of what she wants to do, but she's a little immature about a lot of it, and they show her getting high a lot, like smoking, but I guess she has seizures and stuff too, so the smoking is actually prescribed, but every time they're talking to her behind the scenes, she's got a blunt rolled. But he's dating her, and then he's complaining about how much attention and how great she's doing, and how he's very misogynistic. He's like, well, wrestling is a men's sport, and they're giving too much time to the women and this and that. And I'm like, dude, if she's making more money than you, accept it. Because I would be like a stay-at-home dad if that was the case for me. I'd be like, I'll stay home. You do you. But he's just an idiot. He comes across that way. But there's the reason I bring up that show, because it was actually pretty fun to watch and see how it's going. And then listen to Al Snow, and the guy who owns the thing, the radio host, he comes across on there like he thinks he's a lot cooler than he is. And I'm like, dude, you're a radio host, but you're local to Kentucky, and nobody outside of Kentucky's ever heard of your ass. But he has a lot of money.
In other words.
Yeah, he has a lot of money. He has this bar. He does all the Kentucky sports stuff. And I was like, maybe you're popular for that, but I've never even heard of you before.
Big fish, small pond.
And he talks down to some of them sometimes, and then there's times where they talk down to him. It's like, he doesn't get respect from them. He doesn't give them respect. There's a lot of that. So, like I said, some of that's over dramatized, but watching it, there's the whole time they're talking about trying to get people to tryouts for AEW or to WWE, and they finally get a deal to have some of their people go to AEW Dark. They need like 5 or 6 people. I think they send 3 guys for a trios match, just basically to lose on AEW Dark. But this is how AEW Dark, how bad some of their stuff is. They're like, we need some people from your organization, and they're like, we don't care who, just send some. And they make it a competitive squash match for these guys that nobody outside of Ohio Valley has probably ever seen. And then 2 of the girls go there, and they actually sign one of the girls afterwards, who's the champion for OVW. But she's like, they hardly show her at all in this documentary, so I don't know how good she is. The girl that they focus on in this documentary goes off to California to be in that Women of Wrestling WOW. And she comes back and forth between that and OVW, and she's like their most popular girl there. Yeah, and just very, like I said, she's talented in the ring, but to tell you what kind of character she portrays, her name is Holly J, and I'm like, or Haley J. I'm like, you are portraying a hood rat. Good for you. But she's very good in the ring and stuff. It's just,
Bye, Felicia.
Yeah, and her mom has been wrestling for years and was like the queen of hardcore or something, or queen of the death match, Maria James or something's her name. I'm like, So they have a death match, and every time they start, we're going to have a death, because they start a feud between her and her mom on there, because her mom's on screen character as an agent on there. But she is a former wrestler, and she was going to do it. They were going to do a death match so they could. The girl wanted to do a death match, and mom's like, if you're going to do it, I'd rather you do it with me. And they're like, yeah, I'd rather do it with you because you're going to take care of me. The whole time they're setting it up, and they're behind the stage before the match talking about the stuff they're going to do in it. She's like, I want to paint in glass. I want to do this. And Al Snow's like, no, dear God, no. Everything they throw at him, he's like, no. He's like, He's like, a death match is just an excuse for you to be lazy and cover up the fact in the ring that you have no talent.
Wow.
I was like, damn. He called him
Wow.
out quickly.
Well, if they're in Kentucky, why is Jim Cornette not on here stirring shit?
Well,
I felt
apparently,
they're missing the boat there.
well, he got out of OVW, sold his part of it. Danny Davis finally sold his, and whoever owns this guy who owns it now, him and a couple other people who have invested in it.
Yeah, I don't
whatever.
see that guy jiving with old Corny at all. That would actually be an interesting show in itself.
And they asked Cornette, and he's like, I didn't even know they were doing this. He said, but I'm not really involved with it at all anymore. But it was interesting to watch. But I brought it up because one, I was going to share that I watched it, but two, you talking about AEW and the state they're in. Well, for them to be taking wrestlers from there and giving them competitive matches that they've never even seen these guys before, like, okay, what kind of state are you really in? Do you not all the talent you've signed that's not on your show half the time, and you got to go get people from somewhere else just to, and you still give them an opportunity. You don't just 5-minute bury them. You have a 10-minute or more match.
Yeah, Tony is a little too. He's got way too much talent on his own roster for one. Yeah, way too many divisions, way too much shit going on. Like, you don't need tag titles and trios titles. I mean, let's face it, the trios titles were just created for the fucking elite.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. I see it. It does aggravate me sometimes. I see a lot of potential with AEW. They got the building blocks there. They got the finances there. The network's actually backing them because the network had still been backing WCW to the extent they're doing AEW. We still have WCW today. That's what buried WCW. It was not as bad as some of Bischoff's decisions were, and even Vince Russo's terrible 2 years. They were still pulling in 1 million plus viewers a week. Sometimes 3. I mean, it was fluctuating between 1.5 million and 3. I mean, Raw would kill for those numbers today. Yeah. But, that's neither here nor there. So,
well, the last thing I'll say on that, then I'll let you finish your Geek Week, and I don't have much in mind because I've been traveling. But if you get a chance and you like behind the scenes wrestling stuff and just kind of seeing how a independent staying afloat, watch that documentary because it's actually interesting because they talk about they lose money all the time on the TV, and Al Snow's trying to book everything for the TV tapings, and the owner's like, I respect Al, I love Al, I said, and I trust him with the wrestling in the ring. And so I was like, but man, we lose money on TV every time we go in there because we're doing it live, and we're doing it every Thursday live in this local market, and we're losing money. And every time we do our summer tour, we make a little bit of money, and then we've lost it by the next 2 TV tapings.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. He's like, the TV is not where it's at for us. He said, we've got to do more of the live stuff. And they're like, yeah, we don't make and they see it different. They're like, we got to be on TV. So it's very interesting to watch. It was very good. I need to
check that out. It sounds pretty good. I need to check that out. I've got to catch up on Ahsoka as well.
I finally did catch up on that. And I will say that same thing I said about the first few. Is the pacing's a little awful. Some of them are very slow parts, and some that are good or quicker, and they get to a point quicker. But when it slows down dramatically for me.
I watched the first 2 episodes. I watched them last weekend. I think Sunday evening I cut them on because the Sunday night game was not one I cared for. So I was like, you know what? I'll watch Ahsoka, and I will say those first 2 episodes, holy shit! It's like it would have like a start to peak a little bit, and then just build up a little bit. It's a roller coaster the whole time, and
it stays that same for me all the way to episode 5. Episode 5 stayed pretty engaged the whole time, but the whole time there was something always going on, and it didn't have those low points. Whenever they have those, when it gets slow, it gets slow.
Yeah, Big Rob stopped by yesterday, and he was telling me, and I thought he was gonna get a stiffy while we were sitting there talking about it. He got pretty excited about episode 5, so I need to catch up on the last 3.
Episode 5 was really good, and it had some great cinematic moments, stuff that is probably some of the best Star Wars moments since the prequels ended.
But how happy do we have to be for Hayden Christensen, who finally has redeemed himself, even with the fans? Between Obi-Wan and this series here, he's finally got love from the Star Wars universe that, instead of that hate and shame that unfortunately he got.
I won't give away any spoilers, but his scenes that were in there, some of his cinematic looking scenes were fantastic, except there's this one there's a couple of times where they put him in a uniform that he had in some of it, and that uniform in live action does not translate the same.
I've seen pictures and I thought it was fan art, to be honest. That's what I was telling Rob yesterday.
It doesn't translate the same as it did
Yeah.
animated
The
wise.
colors are a little different. It looked like, and it was like it just didn't seem as
It didn't fit his body. It looked like it was looked like it was made for David Prowse, who was in the Vader suit, but he's wearing it. It's like you're wearing your dad's clothes or something.
Well, you know, when he's in the Vader suit, he's got, you know, what is it? Lifts in the shoes. So it's almost like they've done that with some of the neck piece and all this there. So it almost
exactly.
looks like, and then you get a little head. It's like, damn, the Beetlejuice get you, buddy? I mean,
that's exactly what I was thinking when I watched it. I was like, that doesn't translate very well. But
or as the Gremlin calls him, apple juice.
But the story was fantastic, and the way they shot those scenes was great. It was just that one outfit from the Clone Wars just did not look the same as it did animated wise in live action. If they'd have changed the costume a little bit or done something differently to put the costume on, maybe it was better. But it just the way it was set up was terrible.
I'm gonna have to catch up on that today. Yeah, well, the Falcons play at 1, so depending on what the 4:00 game is. But I could watch the Broncos play this afternoon. I'll probably watch that. If not, that might be what I get to do then.
Since I hijacked your Geek Week, what else did you have, sir?
Really, the only other thing I got before we jump into our topic is I had a pretty good haul this week. Thanks to you and Big Bad Toy Store and Big Rob, I got a few items in. I did get my WCW Warrior, Ultimate Warrior finally, and without paying $200 for him. That's the same damn figure. That's what's so frustrating for collectors, because I know these people that did go in for the first Ultimate Warrior with the WCW, it's got to be pissed. But it is cool when you look at the back, and it's actually got the Halloween Havoc pumpkin behind him, but it's the figure running. He's in the One Warrior Nation outfit. It's a really great looking figure. I'm really tempted to open him. I'm on the fence whether to open him or not. 'Cause, I mean, I keep telling, I'm kind of telling myself, well, you know, if it was a first run, you wouldn't open him. But this is kind of a re-release, so why not? He'll probably never cap out at anything more than about $50, maybe. So, but got that in. Big Rob hooks me up with a Starscream 86 series, the throne room attire. He found one of those at Ollie's. $14. Throne, everything. I was like, fucking grabbing. Yes. So I got hooked up with that, and I got a retro card Vision. I got the Snow Serpent and Snow Job for G.I. Joe, so I got to open those later today. I'll probably do an unboxing video. And I got the Xanathos and the red gargoyle attire, the armor.
I seen that in the store actually.
He looks great, dude.
The other day.
It looks really great. And I'm so tempted to open him but I've got the steel clam over there already. But it takes up so much space, though. Even like you can fold his wings back, fortunately enough. But even with his wings folded back, I mean, he's like this deep and that wide. So it's like, you know, pretty good size figure. So I'm on the fence today. I'm gonna mount Freddy to the wall. Totally opening a few things, and I got my VHS set of Spider-Man. Thanks.
Oh, Peter Parker and Alistair
Smythe. Yeah, so I got to find a home for a few of these things today, because even though I've got my man room back on track, it's quickly running out of room.
Same here. I've actually looked at a couple of things I've thought about just going and selling just to clear some space. Stuff that I was like, I got because I kind of like that, but I'm like, I don't need it or want it necessarily.
My closet in the living room had then got to the point where I couldn't open the door. Like if you open the door, it was going to be like the old cartoons. But I had a lot of boxes, empty boxes in there, and I actually had a Big Bad Toy Store box that was like sitting on the edge of this one shelf and resting on the lip of the door. And if you open the door slowly, it would stay there. But it was full of Star Wars Black Series figures, like especially the most current ones with the Obi-Wan series, Vader. I did have a Palpatine, Grand Moff Tarkin in there, Darth Maul with the robot legs, a few things like that right there. And I was like, fuck. I was looking for Halloween decorations because I started putting my Halloween decor up last night. And I was like, my wife's like, no, clean it now. We're not stuffing that shit back in there. So I started taking some stuff out and I put in her car for her to go store at her house, and she's gonna go look for Halloween decorations over there. And I actually found Halloween decor in there when I started moving. She was like, "Oh shit, forgot about these." There's a whole bunch of stuff in there. I was like, "Hey." So yeah, that's pretty much my geek week. Oh, and Mortal Kombat. I did get to finally play Mortal Kombat 1 last night. It's pretty badass. I hadn't touched the story mode. Figure wise, character wise, I played with pretty much everyone but a few other girls. I hadn't played with them yet. I'm surprised. I think Smoke's gonna be my guy on this new game. Smoke is pretty badass. Usually, I'm a Scorpion guy. Play with Scorpion, Sub-Zero, Reptile's pretty fun. Actually, he morphs back and forth from the green attire, ninja attire, to a very lizard-looking from Amazing Spider-Man version. So he kind of goes back and forth. He was kind of fun. Raiden was fun. Liu Kang's a badass. I will say that. It's almost unfair with him. But I guess he's supposed to be the god of the game. Like I said, I ain't sure what the story is just yet. But there's Shao Kahn is there, but he's called General Khan. He's not Shao Kahn. So I'm not quite sure what the deal is. And there's a few new characters that I don't know who the hell they are. It is kind of cool though that you can. It's the old Capcom style where it's two people. You select who you want to play with, and then you select a partner. And some of the partners you select aren't players you can play with, but they just jump in and do like a tag move here or there. Like Strider, the cop from Part 3, he's there. Cyrax, Terrax, they're there. Jax is there. Sonya's there. So I don't know what the deal is there. You can use them there. Goro's there. There's a very different look for Goro too. He's kind of slender. I was a little too slender. It was a little off-putting.
I haven't looked at any. I debated on getting it, but I've already got Star Wars that I haven't finished, and I've already
Shang
pre-ordered.
Tsung was the
Spider-Man
pre-order.
2.
That's right. I did play with him last night as well, and I do like the fact that you can morph between old Shang Tsung and young Shang Tsung, and each has a different skill set, like special move wise. Like if you go to the old man, he's got like some of the more traditional like stuff coming by the ground, stuff like that. If you go back to the young, he shoots these fire skulls. So it's like it was pretty cool. And when I played the computer, he actually morphed into other people. I couldn't get him to do it, but I still haven't figured out why my Johnny Cage don't have my Jean-Claude Van Damme skins, because that was one of the reasons I pre-ordered was to get the Van Damme skins. So I got to figure out what's up with that.
Yeah, I looked at it, but I haven't finished Fallen Order 2 or whatever, and I've got the Spider-Man 2 pre-order, and that comes out about a month now. So I'm at the point where I'm like, I'm not gonna get to play another game, so I'm not buying another one. But it looks interesting.
I'll probably start story mode in the next day or so. It's probably what I'll do when I come home from lunch every day. Fuck some combat up. Because a couple of my employees have already wanted to throw a line in the sand there. Like, they think they're going to get the old hassle. And I'm like, oh, bruh, you don't know. You just don't know. Your nephew may have talked a little trash Friday. I was like, look here, I used to play your granddaddy, son. He used to steal all my damn quarters. So just remember this.
Just remember to say that right. We played him. We didn't win. We just played.
No. They always won. That's why I stressed to him. I said, I used to hate to see him come because I was always the poor kid with $5. That's why I had to stretch the whole night. Dave would come in and throw that quarter. It's like, Dave, why? You know I don't have no money. You know what's just going to do.
He was
They beat you and then just walk away. It's like,
so you can play it now. Like, I don't know how to play with that character.
Yeah, exactly. And it was like, this is my last quarters.
Yeah, I remember those days. For me, I didn't really have much of a geek week, honestly. I've been traveling for work some. I did have some things come into the house. I'm still kind of processing what showed and what didn't. My snow job came in like yours did. I had the Nightfall Batman from McFarlane came in. I've got yours. I've got to get it in the mail to you. And I think everything else that came in was not mine. It was the kids. But my big bad toy store has between Hasbro just popping up with stuff that's early, because some of the stuff was October, November.
I was not expecting the Snow Serpent or Snow Job this soon.
No, well, my big bad, I had 4 items going into this week. I now have 13 items in my pile of loot, and I'm like,
holy shit! Yeah, well, I think I'm pretty well safe for the majority of the rest of the year because a lot of what I have left is Super 7 stuff. I already know none of it will come. Other than I got a feeling Zed's throne is going to just show up. Even though I didn't order their Zed, I'm going to keep the Hasbro Zed. I did want the throne. I felt like it would, they'd mesh well together. Other than that, I don't think I'm going to be in danger of anything, maybe till maybe December.
Oh, I wouldn't say that because you got a few G.I. Joe things on the list too.
Oh yeah. Well, I and some other things. I'm talking about the majority of what I got on Big Bad Toy Story is Super 7.
For Big Bad, I have most of my stuff there. I think is mostly caught up, but man, they killed me with a bunch of stuff just popping up, and then Hasbro had some. And but speaking of them, they do have their PulseCon this coming Friday, the 22nd. So for anybody who's interested, check that out. There's some exclusives coming up.
What did you think of the Python Patrol Trouble Bubble?
It looks cool, but at the same time, I'm like, why? I mean, you just put out the regular one. Why go straight to that so quickly?
I guess because it's probably still already in production. They just changed the color.
And I guess they did that maybe for the fall Geek Out event that's going on for Target, because those are Target exclusives and Pulse exclusives. But I was like, why did you do that this Friday? Next Friday is your PulseCon, and you're going to have all kinds of pre-orders. And they've already shown some of their exclusives, like their Cobra Crimson Strike team with the Baroness and the twins. And
that looks so good too, man.
It does. I'm not a fan of the gold weapons, but it matches the deco they're going for there. And then the only thing that they haven't shown their exclusive for is Power Ranger, which makes me wonder why aren't you showing that one? But they've already there's already been shown behind the scenes stuff of the Master Morpher coming. So is that your exclusive, or is that going to be a HasLab? Because they're saying the HasLab is probably going to be the axe and the power bow, so you can finish building the power.
Yeah, that's what I was to understand. It was going to be the rest of the pieces for the power weapon.
And
I hope the Master Morpher isn't a HasLab, because I'll be honest, I don't go in for a lot of the. Ever since that White Ranger helmet I bought, I didn't buy any more of the Hasbro props, so to speak. Because they're a lot lower quality than what we were getting with the brand that had them before. But I will get this Master Morpher. It does look really good.
I'm guessing it's probably going to be mainline, because I think the exclusive may be that Omega Rangers 4-pack that they're doing with the Omega Rangers from the comics. That's been shown too, and I plan on getting all those, but that event's on Friday, and I'll be on there watching that. I actually have a PTO day that day, so I'm going to watch that and make my pre-orders on time. Do
you think that if we got a Ouija board and put the pin in the Ouija board's thing, you could probably get Trini's autograph on it? Too soon?
Horrible. That was just horrible.
It's the only way to get all three. I'm just saying, we brought the Ouija board out.
So I think that's next Friday, and then the new Power Ranger show actually starts on like the 28th of September, so that's coming pretty soon.
It makes me kind of pumped for that. I want to see that.
I do want to see it, because they're going to have more Rangers than they typically have. It'll be the first time they have an official orange one. They've had an orange one on there before, but it wasn't an official. There was a dream sequence for one of the folks on the one of the support team, and then Billy's back on there as the Blue Mighty Morpheus. I'm like, I kind of want to see this now.
Are they going to drop all the episodes at once, or are they going the
route of? I haven't heard. Probably all at once, I'd imagine. But
I'm going to use the Gremlins as an excuse to watch this every day.
What they did with the last season, which was the first one that was Netflix exclusive, they did like the first half of it, like the first X number of episodes.
Kind of like how they did He-Man.
Then they'd wait a few weeks or a month or two, and then they drop the other half of it. So maybe it's like that. I'm not sure. But anyway, I think we've been on Geek Week for a while, so we should probably move into our focus topic of trading cards before we're here all day.
Yeah.
So I'm going to let you start us off on that, because, like I said, I didn't get to do much research.
So we're about to dive into the wonderful world of Marvel trading cards and even the DC trading cards. But in the 90s, around 1990, it was when these things just exploded. And Monster, I did not realize that in 1966, Donruss actually done a 66 card set, which was cool. The fact that in 66, they done a 66 card set for Marvel.
There was some before that. The first actual superhero cards were in the late 50s. They did Superman trading cards, and they were the bubblegum type packs.
Yeah, it was a terrible stick of gum like our baseball cards used to be.
Yep.
But I didn't realize that, and they actually look pretty cool. If you got some of those, they're like ridiculously high. But Impel kicked them off in 1990, and from 90 to 93, Impel had them. And then, they started shifting gears after that. But before we jump into where they start shifting into some other companies, how cool was those first couple of waves, those 90 and 91 cards at least? That was just, wow.
Those. So really, there have been cards done for years. Like I said, there were some 50s bubblegum Superman cards, like 59 or 60. The 66 Don Russ I know was out there from Marvel, but the true trading card boom for them didn't start until the 90s, along with the rest of the comic boom, right? You would get something here and there, but it was like nothing that really. So it was almost more like sticker cards or stickers than it was actual trading cards. But those first few sets in the 90s, Marvel Universe 1 and 2, and then when you got the DC Universe one, and I don't remember what they were called, but the DC ones where they had like a gray border around them, and they would show you the Silver Age, the Golden Age, Silver Age, and the Modern Age figures or characters. And they were like the legacy of some of the heroes and then current ones. Those are when you really got a boom out of that stuff. And it was like, it was everywhere.
To me, DC felt like they were behind the curve on where Marvel was with their trading cards. There was some sets of DC cards I really liked, like the Death and Return of Superman set. I liked it.
Those were good.
There was a couple Batman sets that was good, and there was some really terrible Batman sets.
I never bought any
some of the team sets with the Justice League and stuff like that was kind of cool. But I don't know. To me, and maybe it's just because I grew up, I was a much more Marvel fan at the time. So to me, the Marvel cards seemed cooler to me than what the DC did in the early 90s.
That DC, the only one that I really enjoyed from DC was that trading card set. Like I said, that had the legacy characters at first, and you can see like a Golden Age version. Like you can see Golden Age Hawkman, Silver Age Hawkman, Modern Age, which now would be the Bronze Age for us comic wise, but then it was modern. That was a really cool set. But what I always loved about those cards was that it gives me a picture of the character so I can visualize what they look like, even if I wasn't sure. Growing up in the 80s and the 90s and buying them, I already knew a lot about some of the history, but not all of it. So like, I knew who Blue Beetle was at the time from Justice League, but he's that goofy Blue Beetle version of Ted Kord. I didn't know the Dan Garrett one, and looking back at that, so you get some of those cards and it shows you those, like, oh, I didn't know this. And then reading the bios on the back was cool because it's like, I love those Marvel handbooks where they give you the long information about them, but it's too much to sit there and read all this. Yeah. This card was a very brief snippet.
Yeah, you had your cliff note there, and then you had your power stats on the side.
Yes.
So you could kind of match up power stats. So if you were already like we were back then, so and so kicked so and so's ass, you had your stats to back you finally, or you had to eat some crow. Like, oh.
And it gives you a little brief history. Here's their first appearance. Here's the issue. Here's the date, and then the brief bio. Right, the real quick cliff notes of them. But my favorite thing on any of those cards, especially from those Marvel Universe 1 and 2 sets, was the "Did you know" fact at the bottom of it, or the
those were cool.
That was something cool that they would just throw in there. It's like, did you know Peter Parker built his own web shooters or whatever? It was like, oh, yeah. I mean, some stuff you knew, and
but it would draw interest into a character you may have never drawn interest into had you not seen that card. Because especially like with some of the art was really great on probably 85 to 90% of these sets. The art was great.
Oh yeah.
And so you would draw interest into it was just like magnetizing almost.
It's what drew me in to pick up some different characters in different books. Like I was always a fan of certain things, like like I love the X-Men. But there's certain characters like I was never a big when it first started. Probably for the first New Mutants and some of that stuff. Like I liked it, but I wasn't like Cannonball and Sunspot are two of my favorite characters. I got those cards and I got a little bit more into them. Made me go back and read more New Mutant stuff, and then X-Force, and I'm like, all right, these are some of my top tier favorites now. That wouldn't have been if I hadn't had those cards, because I probably wouldn't have went back and read all the New Mutants.
Well, see, that's kind of how I was. Like, the art on New Mutants could sometimes be really wonky and not great. It had a different vibe to it. I guess I don't know, it's more simplistic. Maybe that's what I'm looking for.
It's more abstract and like.
Yeah,
art, like dream sequence looking, especially like with the Demon Bear saga and some of that's like art's terrible.
So if you've seen a trading card where someone like a Jim Lee drew it, and you've seen how cool Cannonball, Sunspot, Wolfsbane, some of those characters, like holy shit, these characters actually look cool. They can be something. you know, and then it would make you kind of say, you know what, maybe I'll give this book a chance. I wouldn't have given it a chance before. And I did, you did, you know, picking it up in a dollar rack or something like that.
Well, I mean, even characters who have been around a while, like I've always loved Cyclops. He was always my favorite X-Man. I never cared much for Havoc at all. I was like, he's got a cool power, it's destructive, whatever. But yeah, he wasn't Cyclops, so I didn't really care about him. But when he started getting those cards and actually started reading more about him and seeing how some of the artwork could look, because I always thought he had the goofiest looking costume with that headdress on. But then I read more about it, I was like, oh, it's this way because it's helping to control his power and stuff. And then read more about the character. And then I was like, all right, I'll pick up a few books with him in it. And I'm like, oh, I thought he's one of my top 5 characters. Now I just love the character of Havoc now, just because it started with those trading cards. Because I probably would have been like, I'm just not feeling the way he looks and stuff. It's just weird to me. But the cards, whether it was the change of art or it was just a different slight take on it, or they gave you more information, it drew me into them.
That's very, very fair. And then, you know, in '93, Skybox took them over. And that's when we first started getting those connecting, the sets of 9, you know, or 9 characters that all interweaved into a connecting picture. and they, I guess that might have been the same year they done the X-Men wave, because they had that one build up thing for them, and then the rest with all Jim Lee deco whatnot, but our art. But Skybox like took it to a next level. Like Impel done a great job, and I still have a lot of fondness and love for those figures, especially the hologram cards. You know, we can maybe dig into more into the specialty cards a little later, but yeah, you know, those first few series, you know, they're special. But then like Skybox kicked it into another gear. It's like, holy shit. And to me, that's kind of where it feels like they started peaking and started kicking ass and hitting that next level.
I liked it in that era when you get into the Skybox, or even later on with the Fleer Ultra and stuff, and they start breaking out into individual groups. So you got an overview of Marvel Universe, and go back to your earlier question. Yes, Marvel did actually produce, I think at that time period, better cards because they had more amount coming out. They had more engagement across the entire spectrum, where DC focused on, here's your main characters, here's your legacy heroes, here's a couple of people that we'll throw in randomly. But Marvel was like, hey, here's the whole Marvel universe. Here's a very big snapshot. Like, you get 5 of the 8 current X-Men in this set. Next set, you'll get a couple more of them. But then you get into those later ones like the Skybox, and I was like, we're going to dive deep into full X-Men. Here's a whole box of just X-Men stuff. Here's a whole box of just Spider-Man stuff. You don't have to go read the whole Marvel universe.
I love those. That Spider-Man set was probably one of my favorite sets. And I got a handful of those still. It sucks because, you know, my mom, when I was 15, she was like, she came in like the Christian Crusaders and condemned me to hell over my comic books and cards. And we had a big fire one day. But a few things survived the purge. And then I, you know, traded and bought some more along the way here or there. Like, I still have a full set of the Ghost Rider ones, and those don't. And even though Ghost Rider is one of my favorites, the art's not the best on those. The Texera cards look good. The others are kind of But I do have some surviving cards that just survived the purge. But some of those Spider-Man wave did survive, but that was a cool, really, really cool set. It's one of my favorites growing up.
I will say that too, that you know, it's amazing to watch after those first couple of Marvel Universe ones and stuff that everything became a trading card. You couldn't have anything with it. Before that, it was kind of mostly sports, occasional hero thing, like a comic thing like this. But, you know, after those first couple in the 90s, then you start seeing, oh, we're going to do cards for this Power Rangers TV show. We're going to do cards for wrestling. We're going to do cards for
horror.
Yeah.
Like in the late 80s, early 90s, they had the horror cards, which I bought a shit ton of, and they also come with that terrible stick-up gum. But Fright something. I forget what they were called now, but it's Fright something. But yeah, those were like really cool cards. I love those. I was always big into baseball cards anyway, so naturally, being a comic fan and I'm already a card collector, it appealed to me.
It translated very well because you go into a lot of stores and they were comic and trading card stores. Like, there were sports memorabilia here and there's comics over here. Mm-hmm. So it fit the market very well. So it was like a cross pollination. It was just all the other stuff that got cards. I was like, why is it? I mean, they would have Lois and Clark TV show, and then there's Lois and Clark cards now. I'm like, who needs steal shots from the TV show?
Well, see, that's the thing. I guess I really feel like that's why I thought Marvels were a step ahead. Even though the best DC cars were the skybox ones, as you know, like the Death and Return of Superman. It was just just panels of the comic without
Yeah,
the wording. It wasn't like it was some original art for that card. It was pretty much just panels of the comic book. To where Marvels was all original art, and like they kicked it into a whole
yeah,
nother gear when Fleer took over and done their masterpiece lines. Like holy shit! I remember the first few, your first 2 years you had what's his name, Joe Zucco, who did them, and then in '94 is when the Hildebrand brothers took over. When them
yeah.
Hildebrand brothers took over, that's when it's like it was realistic looking.
The artwork was amazing. I was not as enamored with those because they took away a lot of the stuff on the back of the card, like the bio. So it was they shortened the bio
Yeah,
down. They took away some of the power stats and the did you know stuff. And
it
I
was
was like,
typically like a quote or something that the character had said in
yeah,
some
yeah.
book.
Now it's just art, and I like the artwork, but I liked having the art on one side and some information on the other side because I'm more of a, as much as I'm a visual for the art, I'm also a reader. I want to read about them
Yeah,
and know about them, and
I
and
did.
that went
I
away.
was. Yeah, if you were to make a set, I'd like to have the art for the Hildebrand brothers, but then the back still have the stats and the quotes and everything that the first three sets had.
Yeah, and be a clear background or something, or a slightly decorated background with that on there. Because that was the other thing, is when they were doing that on like the Flair Ultra and all, it'd be the same artwork on the back, and it would like close in closer to the character's face or something, or
Yeah.
part of the scene. And then you got a few little words, and you couldn't hardly read them because they just blended into everything. I was like, that kind of started turning me off a little bit to buying to me. I still bought a lot of them, but it turned me off somewhat from where it was originally.
I was a big fan of that, especially like I said, the Hildebrand brothers in '94. That was kind of like the height and the fever, I guess, when they kicked off. And I don't know, some of those cards still very much stand out to me. Like and even characters like I wasn't that big on, like Shatterstar, or his the way they captured him. They did really good. Like the Morbius. If you go back and if you
Yeah,
actually, you probably hadn't thought that card in years, but it just probably popped in your head because it was such a great, the way they're coloring, I guess maybe, or how they painted, so to speak.
yeah, they made it. It reminds me a lot of, if you read a comic book that's drawn by, yeah, any of your major artists. Let's just pick one at random and say, hey, this book's drawn by John Romita Jr. Looks great visually, but then that ain't the same as reading a book that Alex Ross painted.
No,
That's the difference in these cards. Is okay. The Hildebrand cards are like the Alex Ross paintings. Like, this is realistic looking. There's a few things that might be out of proportion, not realistic, or maybe even the anatomy of the way they move or something. But it looks far more realistic. It looks more like a painting that's going to go hang in a museum somewhere than it does a trading card.
and I guess as a teenager, it really kicked it into it made it a little more realistic for me. So that when I'm reading later, I can visualize, even though you got the art there, you don't have to visualize, but you can
Yeah,
see it in a realistic setting because you've seen that card by this point, and it's like, wow, that could be really really cool in a movie. That was the closest thing we had at the time to comic movies was
oh
these
yeah,
masterpiece cards.
oh definitely. And in every comic book, movie, or TV show you got cards, trading cards. So if you want to see stills from the movie or the show, uh,
This is true. So out of the gimmick cards, and we had tons of them. You had the
oh yeah,
holograms, of course, that go without saying, but then you started getting the cell cards that with the clear with like a picture of the character on there. I mean, those just are the ones where it's like Spider-Man and then with a real life cityscape behind the character. What were some of your favorites that stood out to you that still to this day you're like, that was a fucking cool ass card?
Uh, so a couple of things. Number one, because they were for the comics mostly, and that's mostly what we're focusing on. The ones that they would put inside the comics, or that they would have the card, the promo card inside the book. Not even necessarily a loose card. Sometimes they would actually staple it into the book. Those were always cool because I was like, oh, this is kind of what I can expect when I get it out of the actual box. And they also did this on the covers of a few comics, but the hologram cards were always my favorite. Any of the hologram ones were, especially like those first couple of sets of Marvel ones, and even the first X-Men set where it's a full silver front, and then you have to move
Yeah.
it around and catch the hologram to see it. And then they would put some of those on like the Fatal Attraction storyline that they did, where they pulled
Mm-hmm.
Wolverine's adamantium out. every one of the issues had a hologram card based on how those are done on front of the comic. And
There's one Magneto one that just really stands out. He's got his arms out and there's the bubble around him, but it's hologram. That just to this day that one stands out to me.
I don't know if I can remember any off the top of my head that were individual ones, but I love the hologram cards and the way they looked. I remember I want to say it was in maybe Marvel Universe set 2, and it was the hologram of the Danny Ketch Ghost Rider. Maybe it was in that set. I can't remember. That one I liked a lot. There was a Spider-Man one I liked a lot. Yeah, it's hard for me to remember individual ones, I guess, but I just remember the hologram cards were always my favorite, and trying to find those inserts was fun. Just buying, opening, but you could afford to buy a bunch of packs back then. Now, if you want a blind box open a trading card set, you buy this $10,000 box of cards, and you open a couple of things here, and that's how they're designed. That's the fun of them now. That's how they're designed.
Initially, they were like what, $1 to $1.50, depending on what it was. And then I remember like when they first went to like $2, it was like, holy shit, this is getting. And then next thing you know, they crept to $3, and then I think the Fleer were always like $3.50, $4.
Yeah.
You know, so those were which the art was there to support it, I guess. But the prices did start going up, and then you know, what was the downfall to you? I mean, we know what the true downfall was. The downfall came in '96 when the comics just crashed.
Yeah, I mean that's the big thing.
To you as a collector, did they kind of crash before that at any point?
For me, as a personal collection, yes, because when they started getting where it was so much art, there was no wording to it, and there was nothing to it. That's kind of where I started getting out of it. Now, as far as actually crashing in the market, it was just a comic book crash altogether. Just basically killed all that. I mean,
oversaturation.
Yeah, probably. And it's very interesting because you bring up a good point about how they crash, but let's look at the current resurgence of them. So. And when I say resurgence, I don't mean that they're back and they're making new cars and stuff. The cars are vastly different now. We could talk about that some too, but the resurgence has been, oh, that stuff was kind of cool. And we had this pandemic and everybody was stuck in the house and people started buying just random shit. They started buying those old cars, boxes of those that people might still have on sale on eBay or something, or full sets of those cars. And you're talking about tripling in price. You used to buy a full set of those. I mean, if you bought a whole box, it was $60, $70. Even if you didn't get a full set.
I remember probably at least 10 years ago running across full box, still sealed boxes.
Yeah.
And about $65, $70 maybe.
Yeah. But then after that, you buy a box that's $400 for a box, $400 for a full set. It's like, and that's come down some now. Now that people are back out doing other things, that's probably cut in half. But it's still probably $200 for them. I'm like,
dude, if you go online and start looking, especially like some of those early Impel cards, like I didn't realize like Black Panther, that card could go upwards to a couple grand. The Wolverine hologram was about $3,500, and I was like, holy shit! No, these are graded. These are graded cards, but you know, lowest on some of those cards that you could buy them as a singular, and I'm sure it's gonna probably shit condition, was $5 to $10 a piece.
Oh, I've seen I've been to some vintage toy stores and comic stores that have some of those boxes in there, and then maybe they're not a full box, so they're just selling individual packs. You talking about $10, $12 a pack for like 5 to 6 cards in there. Like, man, I used to could buy like several packs.
And you don't know what is there. You could have a whole pack of fucking Bucky's for all you know, and not play cool Bucky. Yeah. Hey, this is old school Bucky.
I think the other thing that kind of killed the market for the cards too was the change in the market. So cards now, and it started probably with Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh stuff. Cards now are a game. You get them, you get the artwork, and then you get stats for the character, and you play a game with them. So yes, Magic the Gathering has been around a long time, but it's probably that, Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, all these things that are game cards now. Like even any superhero cards they make now, they're just for a game. They have game stats to play against each other. There's no story behind the character. There's none of this. It's just you either know the characters or you don't, and here's the stats, so you can say, okay, I Apocalypse, I choose you, Pikachu, whatever. Yeah.
Dude, you know that's actually something I had never thought about, but you're probably very, very right there. Is the fact that when those gaming cards like Magic the Gathering and things like that, Yu-Gi-Oh and Digimon and all that bullshit, yeah, that's probably when they did kill the comic trading card off a little bit. You remember when Marvel tried was it Overpower? They tried their own card game. It was actually pretty fun. I bought a couple sets of them at one time, but I mean at this point, we was 16 or 17 to where we was I was probably 16 or 17, and it was like still a nerd, but you were trying not to let everybody know you were a nerd because being a nerd wasn't cool back in 96, 97. So you had to hide that shit a little more. So we didn't do as much of it as as it's not as acceptable today as it is today.
Think about that. I said earlier, the resurgence in those cards that we started talking about, the trading card version of it, not the gaming trading card, but the actual trading card that was informational. The resurgence, why I said, let me rephrase that as a resurgence of buying those, is because the resurgence of current trading cards is all gaming. You talked about Marvel Overpower, Marvel Snap. That's the current ones that come out right now. That's still a gaming card. You're not doing anything other than playing the game with it.
It's just a digital game.
The trading cards that GameStop tried to do a year ago were like a year or so ago, like when you bought a Marvel Legends figure, you got a random card that had a random pack of 1 or 2 cards in it. And I got those once thinking, oh, are they actually doing trading cards? Because that's what they were calling them. Like, I was like, is this like Marvel Universe? Because they were calling it that. But I opened them up, and there's game stats on it for Overpower, Snap, whatever was starting up at that time. I was like, I don't want to play any card. I thought it was going to be an actual trading card like it used to be. But no, even those, when they're calling them that now, they are all gaming. So I don't, I don't know that you ever get back to what you had in those old ones.
Fair enough. I'd love to see a resurgence, which I know they're doing cards now, and I didn't realize one of the more valuable lines is I guess maybe in 2013 might have been when they first tried to kick them back off a little bit. There's a set of Marvel cards from 2013 that is actually like ridiculously valuable.
Yeah, I don't know what those are.
Well, I didn't realize they had come back out around that time.
I didn't either.
But when I was doing a little bit of research, and I didn't research like I should have, but I mean, I did do some research, and wow, it was like they were high. They were stupid high.
They were Fleer Retro.
Is that what they were? Were they retro?
Yeah, I'm Googling. They were Fleer Retro, so they were made by Fleer, and they were supposed to be like the old style trading cards. And yes, they are a full set of them was like $42,000.
That was it. That was it. I looked and I was just astonished. I was like, holy shit, how did I miss these?
Yeah, I've never even heard of them.
Ass for not having those now.
There's singular cards, and they're just looking at this right here, $295 for this Hulk one, and there's a $189 one for a couple others. But a full trading card box on eBay is $42,999. Contains 2 artist sketch cards. I've never even seen these before.
Around 2013, that's when we was hitting JJ's pretty hard and heavy. Makes me want to go back and kick Andrew's ass for never recommending those to me. Well, much magic shit as he tried to push off on everybody.
The cards have gone out of style so much. It's like, okay, was anybody pushing any of that? Now there's just so few around that this is the reason it's priced like it is.
We were kind of in our hero clicks phase in too.
Yeah. Yeah, so there's a lot of stuff on that one. I've never even looked at those. Upper Deck Marvel Fleer Retros from 2013. Each box had 20 packs, 2 10-pack mini boxes of 5 cards each for a 60-card set. All right. That is different. And then they're showing some now that are out there. Upper Deck Marvel Beginnings. I'm not sure what those are. Those are current ones, but I don't know if that goes to the game, the snaps, or whatever that is. Yeah, sorry, I'm looking at these at the same time we're talking, so I'm not ignoring you by any means.
No. I mean, believe me, I fell down that rabbit hole myself on Saturday. I kind of got to go on through, and I was like, "Holy shit! How did I miss some of this stuff?"
So these, it looks like that these have the artwork like we would see on the old school cards, but I'm guessing the back is stats and stuff to play a game with because it doesn't show you anything on that, and it's it just says collect the 180 card base set. It's calling them trading cards, but I've never seen them, so I'm not sure. But a box of a blaster box, which has 9 packs in it's like $20.
Wow.
Oh, I forgot about these too. The metal cards. Remember those? The Marvel metal ones they did?
I do. I do. The
There,
art was
there's
terrible on some of those.
there's a 2000s set in there, like a 20 or 2010s decade set in there too. I just saw one of those from like 2015 or 16 as I was browsing that.
But that was like what we got, a progression of hologram. That's when foil covers became everything, I think.
Yeah.
Around the same time. So that was like the next progression up from hologram was the metal.
Yeah, I still have a few cards laying around, just random cards from different sets, but no full sets anymore and stuff. And I remember we used to go to like the flea markets and stuff, and then we dig through the comics and comic boxes, about 50-cent books and stuff, and then they would have boxes of the cards, and like Mr. Mittens and I would buy like 2 or 3 boxes. We'd go together, put our money together, buy 2 or 3 boxes, split the pack, split them up, and hey, if we got a double of Superman, you get a Superman, I get a Superman, and all the rest of the stuff we split up. Like, even if we didn't get full sets, it's like, for Mr. Mittens, like Wolverine was one of his favorite characters. I'm like, you can have if we only got one Wolverine card or a Wolverine hologram, you can have that one, but can I have that Cyclops? Yeah, we would go in and do that and split.
We wasn't trying to be completionist at the time. It was who was your favorite character, because you didn't realize what it was going to become. So it's just like, I just want my characters I dig. That's why the Spider-Man set, I think, was so unique to me, and why I enjoyed it as much, because I was a huge Spider-Man person. And they'd have done a really good Ghost Rider set out. I had to go balls deep too. But I'll probably say the best place I remember we went to was when that Macon store was closing down, and they had just boxes and boxes, long boxes, and everything. It was $1. And that's where I almost completed my Volume 2 Ghost Rider. I dropped like $80 in there that day, but it left with a fucking ton of shit,
Oh yeah, that was the fun of doing some of that. But I don't know. I think those days for some of that's probably gone now, because even just looking at how they buy these cards now, these Pokemon boxes and stuff as an example, and then they're opening those on the internet, streaming what they get out of it, like the special cards and stuff, but they're buying them thousands of dollars for a box, and then they sit there and open them and turn around and resell some of them. I'm like, that's great, but I can't do that as the average person. I'm not spending my money on that. I'm not spending a house payment on a box of cards.
Oh, no. Them days, well, see, I was saying, I won't tell everybody I won the internet, but there'll be signs.
Yeah.
That would have to be one of those. But so that's our card show. I've pretty well that's everything I've got. But I would love to hear what some of you guys thoughts. If you got some cards that you thought were really cool, whether you drop it on YouTube or one of the socials, drop us a line somewhere. Let us know what you kind of.
What you enjoyed about collecting them, because that was the big thing. Is like, we talked about when we collected them, we were buying them for certain characters and stuff, not even necessarily the full set. If you got the full set, great, but it was hard to do that.
From 90 to 94, at least, those were currency at school.
Yes, they were. They were true trading cards in the fact that they were almost like the baseball, basketball, football trading cards. They were almost like sports ones, like, hey, I got this. I'm a fan of that team. Give me that person or whatever. Yeah.
I know the greatest one I ever pulled off, and it was a baseball card one, but it was with Cameron Davis. I'll never forget, I traded him a Ruben Sierra Donruss King. And it was a cool card. He had the bat with what looked like dynamite in the end of them, because they were like sketched. They were really cool cards. But I had that, and he was like, he wanted it so bad because he wanted to complete a set, and he had a Bo Jackson rookie on him that day. And I was like, I'll trade you for that Bo Jackson rookie. And at first he was like, no. Well, finally he did it. He gave in. He caved. I think I threw a Jose Canseco in as well. It was just a basic Jose card, at the time. So I threw it in for him, and about an hour later, he started getting buyer's remorse. And he's like, hey, I want to trade it back. I was like, no, not having a player. Then we both wound up losing our cards because he went crying and tattling to the teacher. The teacher took all the damn cards. We never got them back at the end of the year. So, yeah, thanks, Cameron.
Well, speaking of never getting them back, let's move straight into Nerd Out, because we've been here for a while. I know we spent a little bit extra time on Geek Week this week, but let's move into Nerd Out. So for everybody who hasn't been here before, this is where we ask random questions about the topics of the day, respond with little to no prep time. Feel free to share your answers in the comments or expand upon ours if you want to. So Hassel, do you have a question this week, or?
I actually do.
All right, well, I'll let you go first then.
What property would you like to see a trading card set out of, and what would it be and why would it be holograms?
Oh, which one would I like to see made of? I don't feel like we got these as much, and there's so many depths of character. I'd like to see G.I. Joe done. They might have done some of them, and we just
They've done a couple sets, but they weren't the best.
I would like to see those done with the the Marvel style, or the file card on the back of them. It would be really cool as the information, and then some of their specialties and stuff, and then have on the front have some new artwork.
What if Jim Lee drew them, but Larry Hama done the back?
That would be fantastic.
How cool would that be?
That'd be really cool.
That's a good one. That's a really good one. So
I think the special inserts too, you would do holograms of some rivalries like Storm Shadow, Snake Eyes, Cobra Commander.
Oh, yeah, you have to do. That was some of the cooler cards I do remember, like when you had those versus cards.
Yeah, the arch enemies.
Yes. That could be real cool with the G.I. Joe line, I think.
I would do those as holograms too. That would be cool looking.
Told you, it's got to have holograms always.
So what would you choose?
Did I do a what if Monday Night War set? The whole premise of the set, you would have basic all your WCW mainstays, all your WWF mainstays at the time, and they would have the stats on the back with the power rankings and all this stuff, what titles they held, so forth and so on. Then you would have those arch enemy what if battles, like your Undertaker, Sting, Diamond Dallas Page, and The Rock, or Goldberg, Stone Cold, so forth and so on. I mean, those probably aren't the best matchups, but I'm just off the top of my head spitballing. Yeah. Hogan, Kane, something, Flair, and somebody. But you would have all your big names, what you would have liked to have actually seen in a true invasion, and what kept the Monday Night Wars going, the NWO versus DX, shit like that.
That would be interesting.
Maybe the Nation and then the Horsemen, and some of those would have to be holograms, or at least 4. I might go with 4.
So, excuse me. My question would be, do you ever think the trading cards ever come back in the same height and same form as they were before?
No. I would love to see it. I would really love to see it because I think kids miss out. Sometimes I look back on things that we got to enjoy as kids, and I do feel bad for kids today because they do miss out on so much that we took for granted, they just don't have today. But it's also not engraved in the culture of their thought process either the way it was ours.
Yeah, and I don't think they ever come back the same way either, because even if they do come back with like similar to how we saw them, I don't think they ever come back in that form. I think they're always going to be more of a gaming form now, because that's what people think the cards are at this point.
There had to be $6 to $8 a pack. I think that's what baseball cards run now, if I'm not mistaken. So maybe they're $10 now. I'm not sure, but they're high.
I don't think they're ever at an affordable point either. If you do get that style back that we had back then, like with the Marvel Universe 1 and 2 series, or even the X-Men series or any of those others, I think that those are going to be those boxes where you have to spend several $100s to buy a box and see what you get at the open, and you do the box break or whatever they call it online. I don't think you ever see them come back to where they're for the average person to buy and in that same format they were back then.
Not only that, you got to look now that you'd almost have to go to a specialty store to buy that. Occasionally you see that one aisle at Walmart, close to the register that has that, which is cool. But you'll never be able to go in a convenience store like we could back in the day. And at the top shelf of the candy aisle, there was boxes of trading cards, whether it be baseball, comic, fried football, whatever. You had all those trading cards there, and they were affordable.
Yeah, or the fervor around buying stuff like that too. If it does come back and it's popular enough and it sells, you can't even go into Target and buy like more than 1 or 2 packs of Pokemon cards, Yu-Gi-Oh cards, because people fight over them. They limit how much quantity you can buy because they want to make sure not everybody comes in and buys just all of it and leaves.
One of the, I guess, forgotten childhood memories that just kind of resurfaced for me is, you would go to the local convenience store it was typically within walking distance of your house, or you get somebody to take you or whatnot, but you knew what day of the week new cards were going to drop.
Same as comics, yeah.
Because you'd wind up, making friends with whoever the owner of the store was, or the the clerk that's seen you come in all the time was like, hey, let me know when the new ones are coming. So you could beat the kids down the block there to try to get, first pick. Cause you were only going to be able to buy a few packs anyways. Most of us, you had a few bucks you'd cut grass for or what, picked up, some shit around the house or whatever, or found change. But, so you were limited anyway. So you wanted that first pick to be able to be the first one. You're blind picking through. Like, I would pick every third pack for some reason. Like it was some kind of, I don't want this one, I want this one. Then you go back and forth. That was fun. I don't think we'll ever see that again, unfortunately.
No, I don't think so. But with that, I guess that brings us to a close for today. Very fun topic. And again, we would love to hear your responses to the topic and some of your experiences with it. But with that, before we get out of here, Hassel, tell everybody where they can find us at.
Man, we are everywhere. You can find us on Twitter, Nerdy MR Show. You can find us on Facebook, Hassel Hutchinson via the Nerdy Manroom Show. Instagram, the Nerdy Manroom Show. We are on Blue Sky, the Nerdy Manroom Show. And, of course, what we really want you to hit us the most at, YouTube, the Nerdy Manroom Show. Monster, I don't know if you've looked lately. We're about to break that 300 mark. We were at 299 when I looked the other day. We may be over 300 now. I'm not sure, but we were at 299 like 2 days ago. So about to hit that.
I will be honest, I haven't looked in over a week because I've been traveling for the last 2 straight.
So, yeah, we're there. And like I said, you can find us on Roku TV, Fire TV, Geek Network. We're a little bit of everywhere. And while we're on this topic, we had our big subscriber goal. Well, a little while back, we broke it. And we've been doing really well since. Thank you, guys. But Craig Seymour, hit me up, brother. You still have not claimed your Michael Myers mask. This fella is still sitting right here, signed as a motherfucker. Hit me up so that we can give this to you, my friend.
And for the record, it's dead on 300 subscribers. I just looked.
Oh, new goal met. Thank you, guys.
And also, while we're on the subject, don't forget, as we've joined Geek Network, we are still actually looking for more members to help with interviews, reviews, and just be part of the family there. So check out the graphic that we'll put somewhere in one of these spots. I'm not sure what side of the screen I'm on, so we'll put it somewhere here. But check it out for all the details on how to apply to join up for that as well. And while you're checking us out, don't forget our extended Nerdy Manroom family member, Big Rob. You can find him on his channel, Big Rob's House of Entertainment and No Chinese Food. Oh, I was going to wait to see if you did anything today. So you just stuck me with dead silence. I see how this is going to go. Check out his channel.
Gotta keep you unpredictable, man.
Check out his channel for unboxings when he gets new stuff, but also a lot of great movie reviews. And I think he's going back through some old movies now and giving reviews on them. So
man,
check out his station.
Missing in action. Whew,
I did see that one. I haven't had a chance to watch it yet. But after you check him out, go check out our sponsors. We want to give a big thank you to them, the Zone Collectibles. You can find them on the internet at thezonecollectibles@gmail.com and on Facebook at The Zone Collectibles or in their store at 305 Main Street, Tifton, Georgia. Visit them for all your nerdy needs from comics to Legos, trading cards, toys, games, and more. Help them support the local artist community by supporting their cause of bringing unity through community. Fandoms unite. And before you leave, make sure you stick around for all the credits. You'll see some of our friends and extended Geek Network family members. Check out their details in the closing credits. But with that, I think we're ready to get out of here, Hassel.
Yeah,
so,
we are.
Everyone, join us here next time. We have a special guest interview coming. The one we promised before, we had to move and reschedule a little bit, but we've got it scheduled again now.
This time.
So until then, live nerdy because it's in the cards.